Today, I'm joined by David Beard. Now, David is a fitness and performance specialist, and he's also the author of a book, If Only I'd Known I'd Lived This Long. So welcome, David. Thanks for coming along today.
Thanks, Jenny. Great to be here.
Thank you for coming. I'm going to be asking you some questions about exercise because it's a challenge for some people to do that. But before we get going, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, Jenny, I'm an exercise physiologist by training, but I've worked with people from all different ages. I worked in aged care for 12 years, so I work with people up to 100 and a few over the age of 100. And I guess I've learnt the lessons of what works with regard to health and fitness and exercise at any age.
Fantastic. So let's get going and say, well, what do you find is the best form of motivation to get somebody started with exercise if they don't normally do anything?
And it is hard to get motivated.
Yeah.
I think the key to motivation, Jenny, is making the payoffs more valuable than the costs. And the challenge with exercise is that the payoff comes down the track, but the cost comes at the time. And it's like all good habits, you pay for it at the time. And with exercise, you know what, if you're doing it properly, it hurts a little bit, it's a little bit uncomfortable, it's a bit hard to get out of bed and get started. So there's a cost when you're actually doing it, and you don't actually see the payoff until later on. It might be later in the day you feel better, or years later you get the real payoff. So the challenge is to try and make those payoffs seem more valuable than the costs in your own head. Right.
So you've got going, say, with starting a bit of exercise, but how do you keep going? Because sometimes you wake up and it's a bit cold, or it might be raining, or it's a bit too hot. How do you keep motivated to actually keep going with your exercise program?
One of the strategies I found works really well, it works for me and it's worked for some of my clients, is I get them to imagine what their life's going to be like if they don't do their exercise. Oh. So I think, what's your life going to be like in 20 years' time? Are you going to be in a nursing home, and no one wants to end up in a nursing home, or are you going to be incapacitated and lose your independence? And people hate the thought of not being independent. So they get to imagine what that's going to feel like, and then they imagine that now and think, oh, I don't want to feel like that. So it's a motivator to get themselves moving again. The other thing that works for me is even thinking a bit more short term. So what am I going to feel like at 3 o'clock in the afternoon if I haven't done my exercise? And I know I'm not going to feel so good. So that motivates me to get up and get going, because I think I'd rather feel good in a few hours' time.
Sure, sure. And I think it's very true. People don't want to sort of imagine themselves not being able to do things for themselves as they get older. So that what you've said is so relevant. So can you share with us some tips and strategies on what you found useful to help yourself keep fit with a regular exercise program?
Yes, one of the best methods is to have a friend or a group of people that you actually exercise with. Because we know if we make a commitment to ourselves, it's a bit easier to break that commitment. Yeah. You know, it's 6 o'clock in the morning when it's dark and cold. I think, oh, no one will mind if I don't go. But if we know we're going to meet a friend or a group of people, that motivates us to get going. I've got a friend I ride with regularly, and he just loves riding in the rain. So whatever the weather is, I know he's going to turn up. There's some days when I think, oh, it's a bit wet, but I know that he'll be there, so that gets me out of bed some days.
Right.
Yeah.
And anything else that you found useful to sort of make sure that you're ready to do your exercise every day?
Yeah, one of the key things I recommend to people is they get their gear ready well before they're actually going to exercise. So if you're a morning exerciser, the night before should be that should be the routine. Get your running shoes out or your walking shoes out and all your clothes, so that's the first thing you see in the morning. You've got to remove any obstacles. If you think you have to forage through the drawer to find your running shorts, that sometimes is enough to think, oh, maybe I'll go tomorrow. I'm not quite organised today. So getting all your stuff organised beforehand is a really good strategy. The other advantage of that, it sort of subconsciously tells your brain that I'm going to be going for my exercise in the morning or after work or whatever it is. And so you're kind of half in tune to be doing that subconsciously, and that sort of takes some of the pressure off. You don't have to think about it. It's just like, that's what I'm doing.
Yes, and we're very good at making excuses or finding reasons why we don't do stuff. So that's really, really relevant.
Even after you've been exercising for years, those excuses still pop into your head when you least expect them.
All right. Now, is there any particular time of day when it's better to do your exercise?
Yes, I think morning is the best time. the people who I work with, particularly the oldies I work with, they all seem to be morning exercisers. And it seems to get your brain working better, getting the blood flow through your brain. It primes your body. It gets your metabolism working. So it's better for weight loss, exercising in the morning.
Okay.
And also, it's kind of one of those things that you've got it out of the way. So people who exercise in the morning, it's kind of like the hardest thing they do each day. I tell people that exercise should be the hardest thing you do each day. Get up and do it first, and then the rest of the day is going to feel easier.
Right. And are there certain forms of exercise which you recommend for different age groups? Are there some forms of exercise that are better for the younger people or as you get older?
Well, not really. Everybody should be doing some aerobic type exercise, so walking, swimming, riding a bike, running. That gets the blood flowing, gets the heart rate up, and they need to get a little bit puffed when they're doing that. And resistance training or weights training exercise at any age is important, and it's probably more important as you get older because it's the loss of muscle mass that happens as we age that creates some of the health issues for us. Right. So I guess if anything, the older you get, the more important weight training and strength training becomes to maintain your muscle mass, maintain your strength, prevent falls, and help your brain stay active.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing so much wonderful information with us today. Now, if people want to find out a bit more about you or your website or would like to buy your wonderful book, and I believe there's another one in the pipeline, tell us on how they can find out more. Yeah,
they can find out more about me and purchase the book on my website, which is www.lifelongfitness, all one word, .net.
Fantastic. And if you'd like to find out more about David and his wonderful book, you can just go to thecouch.com.au. Thank you, David, so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Jenny.
And we'll see you again, hopefully sometime.
Hopefully.
Over to you now, Fred.